Welcome back to ZK Live. This is part 2 of episode 14, I believe. I've already lost track. I was just ranting. I started this episode sipping seltzer again. Bad habit. I'm going to get better at this. I feel it. So I'm like talking about all this stuff in business. Like I'm not a guru at all. I'm just trying to share my experience and what's worked for me. I've made a ton of mistakes. I still make a ton of mistakes. I have a lot of room to grow. So part of me is like, I feel bad that I'm even saying some of this stuff because there are people who are better off talking about the business side. What's up, Nick? But this has been my experience, and no one will. I don't think you're going to convince me that not working on increasing the demand side of your company is the most important thing to do when you're starting off. Have you ever asked a client how much was the previous bid and I will match it or beat it? Please explain. We often ask about if they're getting another price, how are they making their decision? Are they making a decision based off of price? If that's the case, we're not going to bid the project. We're just not going to be a good fit. If you left, it meant that it was the wrong customer for you. My man, I love Pro Paint. That's dead on. I think people, when you first start in business, the first person who comes to you and is willing to pay you to paint, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You're going to pay me to paint? Like, oh man. Even the first 50 are the first 50 people that have ever came to you to want to pay you to do painting. So it gets you excited and you're like, oh, this is awesome. You're going to pay me to paint. And what you can lose perspective on is there's a ton of people in your area who want to pay you to paint. They just might not know about you. But let's just say there's a lot of people in your area who are paying someone to paint, right? It's not a novel thing that someone wants to pay you to paint. Even though when you first start, it feels novel because no one's ever done it. I think that's a piece that I didn't understand for a long time. And again, I didn't have the demand side. I was not working hard on building demand. So anytime someone did call me, I was like, my closing ratios when I first started were through the roof because I needed every job I went to go look at. That's really bad business. If your closing ratios are, some experts will tell you, I'm not sure the numbers, but if your closing ratios are over 80%, you're bidding too high. Now, depends on how well you vet your clients before you give a price. My closing ratios are very high because I'm vetting and I'm whittling down my funnel really tight. And a lot of times it's not budget that more times than, I don't know, just frequently, timeline a lot of times will make it so that we're not as good of a fit as much as budget can. That in a perfect world, that's what I would like to see, is budget not being as big of a deciding factor. I definitely just lost my train of thought there. But yes, always be... we're talking about people paying you and how exciting it is at first when someone's going to pay you. Just remember, there are many, many people who are paying someone to paint every day in your area. So just when you're new, you have to be careful because generally the people who are going to hire you first, generally, that's not always true, but they're not very good clients. Like, they're willing to sacrifice price. They'll pay less for you, an unknown entity. Your first job, you've never done a job. You have no body of work to point to, no reputation. The people who are going to hire you in the beginning, very unlikely they'll be your customers 5 years later. It's just the type of person that's going to hire a brand new company. They're not ideal clients. I would say, and again, convince me I'm wrong. But I think, so when you start, you have to be very cautious of that. Don't take on huge projects when you start off. That's a thing I think everyone should do, is don't take on huge projects until you've done, like, step your way up into larger and larger projects so that if you do make a mistake on your estimate, you don't go out of business. Have you ever not got paid? Oh yeah, that's happened to me. Yes. And it's not fun. Again, Stick to small jobs when you first start. That way, if people do burn you, if you estimate improperly, and it'll just it'll let you start to get that. Here is I've just signed a contract with a client. I have scheduled it. I've executed the work. I've collected the final payment. Excuse me. There's one cycle of one business deal that I've done. So keep the job small so you get lots of Nick's. I'm sure Nick's been paid every single time. People in Minnesota are so nice. But that idea when you first start, do lots of small jobs so you can get better. I wish someone would have told me that. I was always looking at how do I get a big, the first job I did over 10,000, I was like, oh, amazing. I lost my shirt on that job. I would have been much better off getting a bunch of $1,000 jobs. I probably would have made more money. I would have learned faster. So that idea actually just sort of came to me. But if you're new and you're starting out, stick to small jobs and keep working on building the demand side. Over deliver, get that referral, and try to keep steadily raising your prices while just crushing it and doing so well that people keep talking about you. And don't expect to make a lot of money when you first start. I think everyone will tell you that. I often offer them some extra options, extra vision to help them as well as understand what they really want. Works, but not all the time. Big jobs are sexy. GCs prey upon uninformed new contractors. That is so true, what Nick just said. So the first GC I ever worked for, this is insane, but it's so stereotypical. And this is where I'm glad that I can share these experiences. The first time I worked for a GC, he was a spec builder. I was in Home Depot on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock, right? Covered in paint, probably covered in paint dust. Had my little giant, my Ford Taurus, and my box of paintbrushes, and I was getting whatever supplies for tomorrow. I was real green. And he told me, this guy was a scumbag. He was working at Home Depot and building spec homes. Red flag, if anyone's wondering. But I didn't know that. This man was like, hey, I have a house, new construction, whole interior. I want you to give me a price. I was over the moon. I think if I look at what he paid me now, I can't, it was so many years ago. But I want to say it was less than $2 a square foot for an interior of a home. But this guy made me think that he told me, he's I love the fact that you're here on a Saturday night getting supplies. I love that hustle. I want to encourage that. I'm going to give you a shot on my project. That was, this man saw, he was a predator. Like he said, he was a predator and I was prey. And I was the easiest prey he ever got. I was like, oh my God, yeah. And I bent over backwards for this guy and I crushed that job. I probably made $14 an hour and it led to another one with this guy. So I did the next one with this guy. Well, this is what you'll find. Many people will tell you this story with GCs. GCs will pay you the deposit on the first job real quick. The next time around, then they'll even pay, because I got another job for you. Okay. Well, give me a favor on this one. Give me a favor because I'm going to give you a lot of jobs. Okay. So you give them a ridiculous price for the next project. They pay you in full for the project that you're on because they have a great price for the next project that you're on. And it's musical chairs. Now, eventually, they're going to be done with you or they're not going to have a project for a while. And these guys, a lot of them, they're short-term thinkers. Because why'd they hire me? Why is the guy going to give me a chance? There's a million reputable companies, and he's coming to me, some random kid he saw in the Home Depot, right? So again, think about why is someone hiring you when you first start out. Be very cautious. I would say always wonder why someone's hiring you, because the greatest clients already have a great painter and they have a great relationship, and they're not calling you. So to find the great clients, it takes time and it takes luck. I digress. So what ends up happening is with many people and with GCs and new contractors is you don't get the final payment. The final payment is that musical chairs, that chair got pulled out from underneath you and they no longer have a use for you. So I was the easiest I don't know, a guy probably owed me a few $1,000s. That was the world to me at the time. That was my entire life. But to this guy, he's like, oh, this is easy. What do I need this guy for? I'm not going to pay him. So be very careful when you're new and a GC approaches you, or you approach a GC. Like, you need to have leverage. You need to have lots of things, and be very careful. If you're going to start a company, start small and do lots of small jobs. Try to make them profitable. Work at building the demand side, and over time you can start. Yeah, the final payment equals their margin. Yeah, this guy was like, oh, this is amazing. And I called and asked and whined and complained and told him probably cried to this guy. And what did he care? I was just another pawn. He found some random kid in a Home Depot. And I can't say that was the only time that situation kind of happened. When you are new in this business, in any business, especially ours, it's hard to get good projects. Because like I said, remember, I'm sorry to break it to everyone out there, all the best clients already have a great painter who's servicing their needs amazingly, who's profitable while working for them, and is happy. And he's not going to do anything to ruin that relationship if he's smart, right? I have a bunch of repeat clients. I have some great clients that I'm going to do everything to keep because they're amazing. I'm profitable. They're happy. I'm happy. It's a great relationship. So all you guys in my area, like, how are you going to get my client from me? I'm going to have to do something wrong. So when a client calls me or calls anybody, on some level, you kind of have to be, especially if they're acting like they're awesome, in some of the ways. Oh, we don't care about paying or whatever it may be. I think you have to be just a little cautious of why me. And that could vary. There's many reasons it could be you. And oftentimes hopefully it's your reputation. But when you don't have a reputation, the question is, why me? And it's usually because you're cheap. Go back and take paint off the walls. Oh, let me tell you, the thoughts that go through your head when you have completed a project and someone owes you money. Many of us have been there. The things that you want to do, right, that might go through your head are insane if we ever wrote them down. But again, I think at the end of the day, great business advice and life advice is, like, stay away from the crazies. Like, when you're walking down the street and there's like a crazy homeless person ranting, you don't look them in the eyes, because engaging with a crazy homeless person when they're going off is never going to result in a positive, right? You're going to get sucked into their world, and it's going to, you could be the best person ever, and you're in an orbit that's going to cause problems. I think the same thing is true with clients that aren't going to pay you, crappy people. Like, rather than spending a bunch of time and energy thinking about how am I going to recoup that $1,800, that freaking, all the things you want to say about the client who knows you did the work and is playing this like, oh, playing dumb and acting like, oh, I didn't never think that would be charged for, whatever it may be. We've all had the experience. I would argue that it's much better use of your time and energy to be focusing on the next client, the next positive experience in your life, than looking backwards trying to collect that $1,800. That's my perspective on it. I am a big picture thinker. I'm moving forward, and if you're going to get in my way, I'm just going to move around you, and I'm going to keep running in my direction. And for a long time, I think I would look back and and I would get sucked into that guy's orbit, and it stops you from going down your path. So it's a fine line, but when you're around crappy people, I would say try to get away from them as fast as possible. And if that means, like, I do a lot of live and learn. Like, all right, moving on. Like, the next time I know I can do X, Y, and Z. What can I do to prevent this for next time? Because right now, if I spent enough time and energy, could I maybe get that $1,800 from that client? And would I be right to get that $1,800 from that client? Absolutely. But yeah, like Jacka says, use a collection agency. You'll get 50% of the money. Generally, that's what they take. I've never used one. I've never even gone that far. It's the amounts of money, although I have one right now that's $30,000 that is worrying me, but I think I'll be okay. But most of them are small amounts of money. And it's just like, in the scheme of life, don't get sucked into an interaction with the crazy person on the side of the road. Keep going to that, I don't know, in this weird metaphor, that like personal development class that you were walking to that was going to make you better. Don't stop and get sucked in, even though you might be proving a point to this person and you might be 100% right. What does it matter if you're in a conversation with a negative spiral that's just going to suck you down? I think that metaphor is very true for life. I try to practice it as much as possible. It's like, just keep moving forward. And if there's crappy people who are sucking you down, cut them off and figure out how to not be connected to crappy people in the future. Spend time there more than spend time to try to prove that you're right or to prove that you get that money. If it's a small amount of money, small is $1,800 is not small, but it's still in the scheme of what I was going to have to get the $1,800 from this client. Just the idea of going to court and like thinking about court, going to court, looking at that client in the face, talking to them, then trying to get the money after the court decision. All of those things added up to so much negative pull that I was like, you know what? I'm going to move on. I'm not even going to think about this person again. I'm talking about it right now and thinking about it, and that sucks because I don't want to think about that stuff. I want to think about the next job I'm going to sell for $1,800 and the next client I'm going to make happy and the next move I'm going to make. Like, think like that. Don't get sucked into, man, I'm really on a roll with just like riffing here. I'm sorry, guys. I get excited if you couldn't tell. Yeah, we've been given such an experience to our customers that they are more than happy to pay us and know that this is going to be available for them. Know that we are going to be available for them in the future. Yeah, I think that's very important. I've talked about this before. The best way, in my opinion, the best way to make sure you get the final payment, it's not through contracts. And some people, again, convince me that I'm wrong. But I've worked for billionaires. I know a number of other contractors who have a number of billionaires in their client list. I don't care how good of a contract you have. If you go into and you have a contract with a billionaire to do just say $100,000 worth of painting, if that billionaire doesn't want to give you the final payment, you're not getting it. It will not happen. So it's not about having an airtight contract, I believe. I think that, yes, you should have a contract. That's important. But like Pro Paint just said, it is way more important to get the final payment, to have given the client such a great experience that they want to keep the relationship going. They're looking toward the next time they need a paint contractor. If you can't provide the quality of customer experience that the client wants to think about maintaining a positive relationship with you for the future, the client might suck. That's why you got to get rid of those. But most clients don't. So the best way to get your final payment is to do such a great job, not just painting, but customer experience wise, that they want to make sure that you like them so that you will come do work for them in the future. That is profound, that idea. That's where it's like, it's not about just crossing the finish line. You know, I used to run track and they would talk about always running through the finish line, right? Like when you run track, you don't run up to the finish line, you run through it. I think it's the same thing with what we're talking about here. I've done plenty of projects in my life, and I wish I had thought of this analogy. It's brilliant. Before, I've done many projects where I've ran up to the finish line on the project. And then I wondered why the client didn't call me for the next one. If you run through the finish line for all your projects, people are going to want to hire you again. And that is the best way to get the final payment, in my opinion. I'm working for a billionaire right now. They don't make decisions, but the butlers do. But someone signed a contract. And if they want to get out of that, if they don't want to pay you that final payment, good luck getting that money. But if you have given them such a great experience that they want to make sure that you come back to do the next 3 projects they want to have done, you'll never have to worry about getting your final payment. Let's see, there's another question down here. Oh. I don't know why that flips that like that. How do you come up with your prices? Nick Slavic. So, I come up with my prices. My dog wants to get in now. I come up with my prices. I wish I had a better answer for this. Do you want to know, like, I'll tell you right now. Honestly, I come up with my prices. God, I shouldn't be saying this. It's not always true. It's not always true. I think that I have a tendency to try to just charge as much as possible. That's my price. As much as I think the job is worth. Because a lot of what we do is incredibly custom work. We may have never done that before. So I'll have rough numbers, but yes, I'm trying. In sales, you're trying to always sell the job for the most amount of money that the client will buy it for and be happy. That would be my ridiculous answer to that question. There are many things like our doors. I know how much it costs me to do a door. Cabinet jobs, I know how much it costs me to do cabinet jobs. I have very accurate coefficients for that. But I think that I have a lot of demand. We don't have a lot of competition. And so I think you should always be trying to sell work for the most amount of money that you possibly can. Nick Slavic, I know you're in a different boat. Like, Nick has the ability to add 6 more painters to his company. Not like this, but kind of like this. Like, I don't have the ability to increase my team overnight the way, like, or very fast. So I can't just figure out super accurate pricing, very competitive pricing, and sell tons of work and build that machine. That's not the machine I'm building right now, right or wrong. But yes, I'm somewhat embarrassed, but also it's just my reality. Sorry, my dog is whoa, come on, Bear. My dog is scratching at the door. It's just my reality is a lot of the stuff that we're doing. Oh, my dog is gonna bark. I'm gonna have to get her out of here. Bear. So yeah, that's kind of how I come up with pricing. Bear. Oh, she's gonna chill. And knowing how rare it is to find a company to do a door like that is valuable as well. Yes, like I understand that if you want a ZK door, there is I would argue, I could be wrong. Prove me I'm wrong. This is the episode of Prove Me I'm Wrong, but prove to me I'm wrong. But I would argue that I know everyone in my area that can provide a door to the level that we do. I would argue that maybe there's nobody else. Maybe there's 1 or 2 people who could provide a door to the level that we can paint a door. So yes, like I believe we should charge a premium for that. We hired the company to do job costing because I want to figure out if I'm making money doing stuff. I'll tell you right now, I don't know if I'm making money doing stuff. I am trying to sell jobs, keep people going. Like we've grown so much in the last few years, and I started from such like a small, like just trying to survive mode, that the big lacking thing in my business right now is following the numbers. I'm not a sitting in front of the computer spreadsheet guy. So I've hired someone to do all that stuff for us, and I am very excited. I'm going to be documenting some of that process along the way. I think Nick had a great piece of advice to new contractors, and that was something I really loved, that idea of like just start getting used to spreadsheets and putting things in spreadsheets and tracking your numbers. Had I tracked my numbers sooner, I would probably have a lot more money in the bank. There's no question. I think that I just have turned a blind eye to that for a long time and just try to sell and produce. And so now we've gotten to the point now where we need to be much more cognizant of our numbers. And it's something I've definitely been embarrassed about in the past. Still am a little bit. I'm working on that. I think we provide great job. We get great work, great customer experience. But the back end of my company is sort of like, it oftentimes feels like the Wizard of Oz, and like the numbers behind the company are sort of, I'm working on that. But I have bookkeepers for painters, and I think they're going to do a great job. Yeah, in a niche marketing, like niching down or niching down, whatever you want to say, being in a niche market, I think, is very powerful, because we talked about supply and demand earlier, and price, and when there is not a lot of, I'm not an economist, but there are terms for when people have a lot of options, there's a term for it. Then then price is more, you become more of a commodity, and it's easier to just go, God, what is the word? But the ability to just go switch and hire somebody else. My accountant is my conscience. All right, that's the problem. I had that. That is my problem. I'm not gonna tell you that you have problems. But my problem is, my accountant is my conscience. My accountant was, is there enough money to pay the bills and get by? But now it's time to be an adult and have a real business. And I'm trying to have a business and not just work for myself. I think that's a very big difference, and we'll talk more about that. But the supply and demand of the niche market, I think, is very important. When someone can, I wish we had an economist on who would tell us, there's this term on the tip of my tongue, the ability to just go hire somebody else instead of whoever you're working with now. Anytime a client can just tomorrow pick up the phone, and we've all experienced clients who believe they can, whether or not it's true or not, but they believe that they can just pick up the phone and call someone tomorrow and replace you. I would argue that's very dangerous, to be a business where everyone thinks they can pick up the phone tomorrow and call somebody else to come do the work. It hurts my heart every time I've had a client act like tomorrow I could be replaced, when there's 14 other dudes they're exactly like me, and I just got lucky that they decided to hire me. They're doing me a favor, right? That's a crappy feeling, to feel like a commodity. Now there's businesses who are built on taking advantage of that. And if that's what you're doing, like, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're profitable, good for you. But I think when you're smaller, especially, it's really hard. So when you have a niche market, when you've gone, I'm not going to be everything to everybody, but I'm going to be really good at whatever it is, doing this thing. You're going to get much more efficient at it, which means you can be more profitable. If you charge 200 and the other guy charges 200, and you do it every single day, and that guy does it once a year, you're going to be much more profitable doing it at the going rate. So even if it's not about getting a higher price, niching down and doing the same thing over and over and over again helps you be profitable, because you get efficient. When I first started my company, I was doing anything that anyone would pay me to do. My company, when I started painting for myself, let's be real, I was doing anything that you would pay me to do. I was buying a new tool for every project. I bought shovels, I bought hammer drills, I bought a wheelbarrow one time. I bought a tool for every job, because it was new and different. So not only am I buying tools for it, but I'm not efficient, because it's the first time I've done that type of job. Now, a company that just does, like, one time we fixed a fence. A kind that just fixes a fence company is going to come in and they're going to crush that job, right? Now, I didn't get paid 3 times more than the going rate to fix that fence. So what was I doing fixing a fence? I had no business fixing a fence. I'm not efficient, and I can't charge more. So what am I doing? But at the time, it felt good, because someone was agreeing to give me money to do something. And I thought that was the goal, was to try to get lots of people to give you lots of money to do things. That's not the goal in business. The goal is to be profitable. And you know, anyone who's lost money on a job will tell you it's better to sit at home and make no money than it is to work your butt off. And in many times I've paid to do jobs. I just finished a job where I paid a lot of money out of my pocket to do that job. I would have been much better off sitting at home doing nothing. I'd have been made more money than if I went to work every day for 3 weeks, right? So when you niche down and you know who is this guy? I'm sorry, bro, but I gotta get you out of here. We're gonna hide this man because we're talking about painting here, sir. Yeah, so when you niche down, you end up where I'm doing this really well. I know how to price it. I do it all day, every day. I'm efficient. And you'd think that would be cool. But what the beautiful thing is, not only do you get more efficient at it, but you also get a reputation for the guy who fixes fences. All he does is fix fences. Well, are you going to hire the dude who does a million things? Or are you going to hire the dude that only fixes fences when you need your fence fixed? Or more, would you pay a little more to the guy who only fixes fences? Or would you pay more to the guy who does all sorts of things? So when you niche down, I think it's very important, John, that was a good point. Like, niching down is a great way to start your company. Just do kitchen cabinets. Just do interior repaints. Just do front doors. Just do fences. I know that sounds crazy. When you first start, you're like, I just want people to pay me to do things. But you'll find over time, at least I found over time, that I wish I had just focused on doing one thing and maybe sat at home a few more days a week than even went and did that. Because there's a thing called opportunity cost. If I'm out fixing that fence and not painting the inside of that house, if I'm out fixing a fence and someone calls me to paint the inside of a house that I might be better at, well, sorry, man, I'm already committed to fixing this fence for the next 3 days, right? So the opportunity cost of when I decide to fix that fence, I'm giving up the opportunity to do other jobs. So again, being very smart at what job you take on will help you make more money. It'll help because you're more efficient, you get paid more, and you're also not sacrificing the good jobs because you're stuck over here doing a job that sucks. I wish someone had told me to look at it that way. Take any paying job. Oh man, yeah. We have done some crazy stuff. Now T&M. T&M, I would argue, is a bit of a different story for a great client. We have actually, it's ironic that I'm talking about this. We've installed a decent amount, like well over $30,000 worth of fencing for one client on a beach. It's been 4 different years we've installed this zigzag fencing, sand fencing, or what are they? Sand fencing. For a great client. It was an ideal client, still one of my best clients, if not my best client, one of my favorite properties. And they came to us and were like, everyone's coming up our dune. Can you figure out something to put there? I was like, yeah, we can build this like quick fence. And then I did some homework and found out if you build a zigzag 90-degree fence, the sand will collect in the zigzags and you'll actually build your dune back. So they were like, oh, that's awesome. Again, what we were talking about before, like, think about what you're doing. Don't just do stuff. Like, put some thought into whatever you're doing. So we put some thought into it. I did some homework and came back to them with like, hey, let's build this zigzag fence. It'll build up your dune. So it did, and it worked. And they actually got many truckloads of sand were collected for free by having this fence, and people didn't come up on their dune. So we've then ended up then the fence got covered in sand, and we had to do another one and another one and another one. So I have actually installed fencing profitably, but it was T&M. Taking care of clients, that's a different story. But if I got a phone call tomorrow to install fencing, hey man, we are not the guy. I'll tell you that right now. Don't screw people. If you're not good at it, don't do it. Let's see, I missed some other ones. When we grew too quickly, we were taking on jobs to keep everyone busy and lost plenty of money. Oh, I did that. I had, God, it was all under the table, but I probably had, I mean, at one point, I can tell you like 3 or 4 years in, I had 12 guys working on a project. It was an absolute nightmare. One day I'll tell you the story of the lead church. I don't have it in me to talk about it right now. It's too long. I'm getting tired. But a paradigm shifting project in my life was this big lead church that we restored. But I had 12 guys on that project. I had, we probably brought 4 or 5 on for the project. But yeah, when I first started out, I was hiring guys because I'm hiring guys. I'm selling more work. Oh man, this is so awesome. And next thing you know, you have 6 guys you got to keep busy. So now we lost all the leverage when it comes time to negotiate with a client or to give an estimate, right? My supply side was through the roof. My demand side was way down here. Well, guess what? My prices were cheap because I needed to keep these guys busy. And many people may know that situation. It's not a situation you want to be in. I would again recommend to everybody when you first start out, keep supply constrained and build demand. You'll never go wrong that way. Maybe you lose out on a few more dollars of profit, maybe. But the other way around, I can guarantee you're going to lose a lot of money. Too much supply, not enough demand is a recipe for disaster. So if you're going to go one way or another, definitely go more demand, less supply. Why has Fan Paints of Europe become your main thing? And it's a great choice. Super luxury finish, no doubt. Well, it's the niche market that we were talking about. Fine Paints of Europe allowed me to develop a niche market, to develop a company that served a niche market. We were trying to sell high quality paint jobs to people, and we would give a bid like everybody else did. And we might say we're going to do 2 coats of primer with extensive sanding between each coat of primer. And maybe, and then we were going to do 2 to 3 rounds of nail hole filling, right? Those were not said in the other bid, right? That's above and beyond a standard paint job. But we were using the same exact paint that the other guy was going to use. So, and we were significantly more money because there's more work. And I was running into that, and I just was like, you know what? This is annoying. I don't like how hard it is to sell this work for what it costs. I need to do something different, right? I need to not be replaceable. I need to be different. Because when you're in a niche market, there's better ways to say this, but people can't just call someone tomorrow, right? So you're offering something special. So honestly, Fine Paints of Europe was a way for me to be different and offer something different to my clients, which would then make it so you could not price me against each other. I was an apple and they were oranges now, instead of everybody going apples to apples bids. And it was the greatest thing I've ever done. It helped solidify a niche market for me. We use Fine Paints of Europe all day, every day. I have probably $10,000 worth of my bone pile at the shop is a bunch of old Fine Paints of Europe gallons left over from projects. That totals a massive amount. I can't believe it when I look at it sometimes. That's all we do. We use it all day, every day. So when you want Fine Paints of Europe on your project and you talk to the other guys and then you talk to me and I use it all day, every day, my team is trained on it, it's all we use, I can command a higher price and I'm going to sell more jobs because it's all I use. So it was a differentiator. Is there another level you can reach for the Lamborghini finish on doors? Is there another level? We're working on, so we've reached a level of our doors that I would say, no, you really can't get past. If you cut and buff, possibly. But we get some doors, with this new booth upgrade, I think we should get doors that don't need to be cut and buffed and be perfect. The next level that we have to get, though, is we have been, it's not a secret, but we have been using the old Holland Lac up until this next project. I just bought my first batch of the new Holland Lac Brilliant. It is a different formula. It has different thinning ratios. It performs, it acts differently. It sprays differently. We had a very dialed in system for the old Holland Lac. Now we have to retrain. So I have a very exciting piece of equipment that's going to be delivered to the shop, I believe, tomorrow, to allow us to do some testing. Again, we're going to test before we spray our first project. Extensively, we're going to test. But I'm planning on using this very obscure piece of equipment to help us spray Holland Lac Brilliant. So that is our new, we now have to crack that puzzle of Holland Lac Brilliant to get it to look like the old Holland Lac Brilliant. What do you think about decks? I'm thinking of going to step away from them because people don't have realistic expectations. They neglect the deck for years and expect it to last. I think that's a very good point. We set very clear expectations with clients, and our clients want to know. If you have a client who does not want to know, who wants to remain, cognitive dissonance, they don't want to hear the truth, then yeah, run away and don't do decks. It's tough. Decks are tough. But we tell everyone, hey, you want to stain exterior? It's a luxury product. It's going to cost you maintenance. It's going to cost you money and maintenance all the time. It is not the cheapest way to go. So decks are really tough. And managing clients' expectations is really tough. And I understand if you're going to get out of it. I don't think there's anything. We don't do very many, and the ones we do, we charge what we need to charge. I hate power washing. Like, if we're going to power wash, we're going to be $120 an hour at minimum to power wash. The equipment's expensive. It's not fun work. It requires high skill. You can do some serious damage with a power washer. And if I'm going to come out for 2 hours, I'm not going to charge you $240. I'm going to charge you $600 to come out for 2 hours. Because that's, what the heck am I going to do for the rest of the day with that guy? Like, if I'm going to do decks, we charge a premium because they are pains in the butts and no one wants to do them. Again, build the demand side and you can walk away from decks if you want to. Or you can put prices on them where you feel like they're worth it to you again. Always build demand. Why do you think Fine Paints of Europe is better than Malaysia? I would not say Fine Paints of Europe is better than Malaysia because that doesn't answer the question of what matters. Like, how are we deciding what is better? If we are looking at clients' budgets and expectations, they might have expectations of an aesthetic that is paramount, and their budget may be less important to them. If your budget is less important and aesthetics are everything, then Fine Paints of Europe is better than Malaysia. No question. You will not talk to a human being on this planet that I know of that knows anything that will make an argument that a Malaysia water-based 2K poly looks better than an oil enamel from Fine Paints of Europe. That's just not the case. But we're talking about maybe a 10%. If you don't know, and you don't put them side by side, if you don't know, most clients are completely fine with Malaysia. So if clients are more concerned about budget and they want it to look good, but they're not incredibly particular about aesthetics, then Malaysia's better. Because Malaysia's much faster dry times. You can do a kitchen cabinet job with Malaysia for a fraction of the cost of what it costs to do a Fine Paints of Europe job. So it's when someone says something is better, and I'm guilty of it all the time. Best this, best that. Like, what are the parameters that we're judging these things on? And so I think Fine Paints of Europe, aesthetically, there's nothing, I've never seen paint look better than oil enamel. High quality oil enamel, whether it's eggshell, satin, or gloss, has a depth of color and a feel to it that is luxurious. It's rich, it's deep, it's sensual. There's something beautiful about oil enamel. 2K poly is plastic. Like, let's be real, it's polyurethane. So it's pigmented plastic, if you will. It can have a plastic feel to it. It doesn't have depth of color. It doesn't feel amazing. Now, is it great? Like, hey, it's awesome. It's way better than pre-cat lacquer, durability-wise. And so if those things matter to a client, it's better. But I think that's a tough question to answer because it really depends on the parameters. That's some pretty expensive stuff, even to get to the professional level. Even simple things like returning calls timely and showing up on time set you apart from most painters. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we talk about a lot is, serve the market and don't just paint. But if you return calls and you show up on time, that would arguably make you a high-end painter in many worlds. Which is what? The Kremlin 50,000 Mega Blaster? Oh yeah, that secret tool that's coming. Is it fair to say that Mickey gave the name Lamborghini door, laugh out loud, my claim to fame? No, actually, Mickey, it's not fair to say that. My consultant, Larry Lanuette, I think if you guys find Prime Workshops, Pryme Workshops, everybody send him a DM, tell him I said hello, and tell him, I don't know, I tell him thank you a lot. I hired Larry Lanuette when he was not Prime Workshops to come be a consultant for me. I paid him a significant sum of money, way more money than I ever in a million years thought I would ever pay to someone to consult about painting. It was the best money I've ever spent. It changed the trajectory of my career. But he was the one who told me, you are selling Lamborghini paint jobs, and you need to sell them from Lamborghini dealerships, not Toyota dealerships. So, unfortunately, Mickey, I can't give you credit for the Lamborghini doors because Larry Lanuette told me that in order to sell a Lamborghini, I needed to build a Lamborghini dealership. And the analogy of that metaphor that we're talking about, that's what John was just talking about with answer phone calls, return calls, or answer. How about this? This is amazing if you can do it. Just answer the phone. I try to answer the phone every single time. You call me anytime you guys want. Call me. I'm probably going to answer the phone unless I'm talking to somebody. I answer a million telemarketer phone calls a day because I want to always answer the phone that time the client calls. There's a lot of value to that. Now, you might argue it's a waste of time. I don't know. Maybe it is. I should probably test that. But I've had a number of clients say, oh my God, I'm so glad you answered. This is amazing that you answered. If not, call them back quick. And then show up on time. Those two things, that's the Lamborghini dealership in this metaphor. What paints have the most solids other than FPE, C2, Ferro Ball? I will say with a fair amount of confidence that C2 paint is the best value domestic paint that you can buy. If you have access to C2 paint, I would be using it all the time. If you're using Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore instead. At that price point, the C2 commercial line of paint is really great. It's on most of the walls in my house. C2 Luxe is their higher end stuff. It's amazing paint. Their color is amazing. We use their color chart all the time. If you don't have C2 paint near you, I'm sorry, but if you do, I would encourage everyone to look into C2 paint more. Their color charts, develop a relationship with your dealer. They have all of the colors, 592 colors, I believe. They have them in like a poster board with the actual paint on them at the paint store. So if you're going to use the paint a lot, develop a relationship with your paint dealer, which you should always do. I talked about that before. My paint dealer allows my client to come in after they sold the job and take as many of those. They're $7 a piece usually. They can come in and pick as many of those pieces, those poster boards with the colors, put them in this little like container that keeps them safe. They can bring them home, put them on the wall with some tape, nicely blue tape, and see the exact paint and the exact color on their wall. I haven't bought remember those Sherwin-Williams little freaking quart sample pots I used to donate like 200 of them every quarter to the local art place because we'd go through so many of them. This way we don't have to put the paint on the wall. This is the actual color, actual paint on the wall. So C2 paint, huge. I highly recommend it. Ferro and Ball, I'm sorry. I think they're massively overrated for paint. Their colors are awesome. I'm not going to argue their colors. I think their paint is overpriced and it's not special at all. We try to get all of our clients to use Fine Paints of Europe mixed in their colors. All right. I'm probably about to run out of time. What holds up to the elements better? Oh, so that's probably talking about Malaysia and FPE. So FPE is going to, pigmented paint, FPE is going to last longer, exterior. Malaysia has a system called hydrochrome. We use the Ilva Klima system. For exterior stain, it's really, I mean, I would not recommend just testing those. Like, just recoat a maintenance coat every single year on an exterior, like film forming exterior product, like FPE marine yacht varnish or a Malaysia hydrochrome clear with pigment stain. So when it comes to exterior, the paint is going to last longer for FPE, probably. But there's not a big difference there between Malaysia and FPE. It's more about the aesthetics. Yeah, I mean, all paint fades. I just looked at, we're going to be doing a project, 13-year-old black gloss, and it's faded on the sun side. It's pretty faded. 13 years is pushing FPE. Like, you want to be 7 to 10 years. Just put a quick coat on, and it'll look like $1 million. K2 Lux is bomb. Yes, I would love to see a scratch this video and Fine Paints of Europe finish. I have like third party. Fine Paints of Europe has given me third party scratch tests of a 2K poly from Malaysia and Fine Paints of Europe Holland Lac satin. They are identical in their scratch resistance, their durability. You're not going to see a difference in durability. Will you see it faster? Yes. Like a water-based 2K poly is going to get durable faster. It cures much faster than an oil enamel. But you're not going to sacrifice durability using Fine Paints of Europe on cabinets. You're really only sacrificing cost. Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a dick, but that's a ridiculous question. They both have great paint, depending on the line. Again, it's like, what are the parameters that we're judging our paint based off of? Malaysia and solvent-based, yeah, they have great solvent-based products. No question, great solvent-based products. You can't brush them though. You can't touch them with a brush very well. Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore. Again, the question is, what are we judging this off of? Do you have equal access to Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin Moore? Are they next door to each other? Are the reps equally as awesome? Can you get amazing service from both? I would argue you probably can't. So you have to look at that. Like, what's your accessibility? Because I think they have products that compete with each other that are fairly similar. Are you repainting a bathroom? If you're repainting a bathroom, like I'm using the two of those paints, like I would be using Sherwin-Williams trim paint because I can recoat a Pro Classic in 4 hours, which is like 2 hours in real life, versus if I'm using Advance, I have a lot longer dry time. So I'm going to take it in. So know your paint products. I think that when people go, I'm a Sherwin-Williams guy, it's like, all right, well, is there no Benjamin Moores anywhere near you? Okay, cool, I get it. Definitely be a Sherwin-Williams guy. But to just say you're going to use all of Sherwin-Williams products because you're a Sherwin-Williams guy, like, Sherwin-Williams doesn't suck. I'm sorry. They don't. Like, they have some great products. But what are the parameters that we're judging on and what products? Does every product from Sherwin-Williams suck? No, man. I think you could agree to that. Does every product from Benjamin Moore suck? No. I think you have to understand the products, when to use them, why to use them. What are your parameters for better is always the question. And if I think there's advantages to buying the same products over and over. You get a better deal on them. If you're buying a lot of paint, there's definitely an advantage to using one paint supplier. I know the big guys, like the big paint guys, you wouldn't believe the prices they pay. You wouldn't believe. I know of a paint company that had a $250,000 marketing budget given to them by one of the big paint companies. Someone gave them $250,000 in advertising in their area because they buy so much paint from that company. Now, if that guy was splitting up between the two companies, I don't think he's getting that. So he has loyalty and he's buying a ton of paint, not Certapro. I'm talking about a privately owned company. But I think when people talk about Benjamin Moore, what is better, it's like, come on, man. You got to look at how are we defining better. And that's true for everything in life. Back to, I think I'm losing steam here, guys. I've been riffing for a long time. Again, everybody, thanks for coming. Let's see. We could ask the ZK questions to myself, the ZK Live questions to myself. We already went over DIY tips. The problem that we have in my area with Sherman is the people at the store don't have the knowledge on when we go to our old school paint store guy. Phil, dropping bombs down here. They are paint stores, not sports teams. I love it. Yes, this is not Yankees Red Sox. When you become a Red Sox fan, all of a sudden, when your freaking guy on your team does some domestic violence, maybe you kind of turn your cheek, right? Doesn't that happen all the time? But if the Yankees guy does the same thing, he's the devil. I think that's a great analogy, and some people get to be Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams guys like their sports teams. And I think as a business person, there's nothing wrong with being to one. If you're getting a lot of value out of one, there's nothing wrong. But I don't think it's fair to characterize one company wholly as being better or worse. But I do understand that small local paint companies with old school institutional knowledge have a lot of value. And if you go into the average Sherwin-Williams and the average random employee that's going to be the person you talk to will not have that old institutional knowledge. That's not necessarily true all the time. No, but I don't look at the paint companies as teams. Like, we definitely don't use Fine Paints of Europe for everything. It's easy to, and there was a time where I was starting to be indoctrinated into my team and my flag, but then business gets in the way, and you realize, I don't know. Idealism, I talked about this before. Idealism in business, in adulthood, I'm sorry, but convince me I'm wrong, but idealism is for children. And anytime we get too idealistic about anything, I think it's not a mature way of seeing the world. And, not everything is black and white. Sorry, that's not a very good analogy right now. I take that back. But, I think just being objective and what are the parameters you're judging things on. Like, you have to understand what are the parameters you're judging things on. If it's paint, if it's clients, if it's employees, if it's human beings you're interacting with, understanding what are the parameters I'm going to make my judgment on is very important. Again, everybody, thank you for joining me. This was fun. I didn't have to sit quietly and just listen to someone very knowledgeable say a bunch of very knowledgeable things. I'm not saying that, but obviously I like to talk. So this has been fun. Maybe I'll do a few more of these, but next next week, we have some awesome guests. We have the president of the PCA and the owner of a very large commercial painting company, very successful painting company in Colorado. Gina is an absolute beast. Wait till you meet her. She's so smart, so hardworking, so driven, has such great vision for her company and the PCA. I think you guys are all going to be very impressed with Gina Gert. I can't say. I'm not sure how you say her name. She's awesome though, and I'm really excited to interview her. So everybody, thanks for watching tonight. I really appreciate all the feedback. You guys really helped me spur along this conversation with all of those comments down below. The intern team will be putting this stuff up. If you're not following if you could do me a favor and go on our YouTube and the Spotify and the iTunes and like and comment and all those things, it's good for us. Yes, Shamrock Painting. They're now like SPI, Shamrock Painting Incorporated. They go by SPI, but man, she's a very impressive individual. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. Crush it on Monday.